SharePoint is the knowledge platform for Copilot today, and it just got a big upgrade introducing knowledge agents. In this video, we're going to talk about what they are, why they matter, and what this means for IT. So let's begin. First, let's talk about how content limits AI's potential. A lot of organizations struggle with content today because it's not all in Microsoft 365. So the first of the many tools we use to improve this is consolidation. We migrate from file sharers and SharePoint servers and from Google Drives and from other Microsoft 365 tenants if we have multiple, and we consolidate them into one Microsoft 365 tenant so that SharePoint can actually serve and surface more of that information to the organization. And when we can't consolidate, we connect. But the knowledge agent does something a little bit different. What it can do is it can actually help you optimize or improve the knowledge or the content in your organization, specifically the content in SharePoint today. And that's what's different about this knowledge agent versus the SharePoint custom agents we've had so far. You see, the SharePoint custom agents can answer questions. They have a great Q&A set of functionality. But knowledge agents can do that and much, much more. Now, I'm going to come back to custom SharePoint agents a little bit later when we talk about IT implications, but let's talk a little bit more about what knowledge agents really do today. The first thing is to understand that knowledge agents can actually understand the context of the page. So when you're in a library within SharePoint and you use the knowledge agent, you can ask it questions, and in order to provide those answers, it can provide suggestions or even help you create automations that get you that answer, not just one time, but make it more reliable and easier to answer that question in the future. Let me give you an example. In a traditional custom SharePoint agent, you might have a large set of lease agreements. Think of thousands of lease agreements. And you ask it a question like, hey, which ones are expiring in the next 30 days and have a building type of X? When you ask that question, it's going to try its best to answer it. But because there's so many lease agreements, it will not be reliable or consistent. This is where Q&A with Copilot can start to falter. This is where we have to guide it a little bit or give it that information. But if you've ever used metadata, you know that in a magical world, if all those files had the metadata of when it was expiring and what building type it was, then you could answer that question with views and filters. And that's what the knowledge agent can do. It can say, hey, I can answer that question. To do that, let's create some columns. Let's fill those columns magically with the content that is extracted from those files. This is using something called content processing or document processing through content automation. This is autofill columns. And so this capability allows it to actually use AI individually on each of those documents to extract things like the modified date, the building type, etc. And now we have those in column values, and now Copilot, or in this case, the knowledge agent, can answer that question. Not only can it answer that question, but it can help you create the view, it can help you create the columns, and more. Now, why is this really compelling? One, it means that there's much more complex questions and answers that the knowledge agent can solve that the traditional SharePoint Copilot or the custom SharePoint Copilot experiences cannot. So that's important. Number two, it's actually really important because one of the things that many people don't realize is that today you can use autofill columns and, of course, this preview functionality within the knowledge agent for free. There's limitations with these, like there's, for the autofill columns, you can only do X number per month and so on and so forth until December of 2025. But this is a great opportunity and you can't argue with free. So this is an opportunity to use these richer capabilities to enrich your content and get more out of it, not just for your knowledge agent and those questions and answers you might be proposing, but actually in the longer term, because there's other ways that AI will be able to use that information. I'll give you an example. Another thing you can do with the knowledge agent is you can have it automate a process. So let's say we had that, when was it expiring and we had the type. Well, what we could do is we could base on the type and when it's expiring, we could actually notify different people. And we can do that through natural language, just saying, okay, when the metadata says X, we want you to notify these group of people. If if lease agreements are added to this folder, we want you to notify these people. There are lots of these types of automations you can add through natural language, and then the knowledge agent will help you scaffold and build those. Another example is that you might think of this only in the form of documents, because that's what I've been focusing on here with my lease agreement example. But it actually works across sites and pages. So within sites and pages, many of us have encountered the challenge of our sites slowly becoming out of date. Well, AI, in this case the knowledge agent, can help us understand what are the stale pages, what's the content that may be really relevant for an update or might be good for archiving. What about content gaps? So what are people searching for but unable to find within the collection? This can become a great opportunity to use the knowledge agent to then actually help you create pages and content to fill those gaps. Additionally, we all know there are broken links, and broken links can be detected, and once identified, you can take action on them. Maybe you want to redirect that, or maybe you want to do something else like review it and figure out where should it point to. In each of these instances, the knowledge agent isn't just helping you answer questions and get content, but it's helping you improve the content, whether that be pages, whether that be documents, or whether that be libraries and the way in which we've structured and organized our content. Now, this is important because each of these stack on each other. If I wanted to take those examples, we were looking for pages and stale pages, we could do the exact same thing we did with documents earlier, where we can set reminders for periodic audits and reviews, and that could help an intranet team. And so we could also do that sort of thing around the documents and then improve our content in a number of ways. While this explains the value of knowledge agents and why they are important, what I want to talk about now is I want to shift the discussion towards IT. What does IT need to do about this? Well, first, as I mentioned, the custom SharePoint agent still has value. Many organizations have already implemented a number of custom SharePoint agents, and those are valuable because of the instructions that you put in them, because of the prompts that you've come up with, and because you've grounded those agents on a specific subset of content. And this is something that the knowledge agent will not have the equivalency for right now. So the little bits of extensibility, customization, and importantly, the way in which you ground it potentially on multiple collections of documents at different places, that could be a scenario where the custom SharePoint agent is still valuable. What you will see is that the knowledge agent will take over most of the workloads for those traditional unedited SharePoint agents within every site. So every SharePoint site has a SharePoint agent. Those will be assumed over time by the knowledge agent. However, one other note is that the custom SharePoint agents can also be and are often consumed by Copilot chat users. Those are the non-Microsoft 365 Copilot users that are $30 user a month. These are the ones that use pay-as-you-go. And pay-as-you-go is really powerful because a lot of times what people need is answers to questions from documents, from knowledge in your organization. And so you can use the knowledge agent for those paid users to optimize, think of the metadata, think of this restructuring, think of ways that you improve it. And then that can actually have knock-on effects for all of these pay-as-you-go custom SharePoint agents. And so keep that in mind as well, that there's value in certain scenarios for us to use those custom SharePoint agents, especially if you start to extend them with Copilot Studio, or if you're building your own custom agents in general, because then we can add more skills and capabilities similar to the way the knowledge agent adds a number of skills and capabilities to the SharePoint agent. All right. The other big thing that I want to highlight here is that this is an opportunity. For many organizations, when you roll out these knowledge agents, you're going to get interest from end users and business communities and people who run and manage these sites. And it's talking about how they use their knowledge. Well, most of these groups have their knowledge in other systems. And this is an opportunity for us to accelerate the modernization, the migration, the consolidation, whether it's from file shares, from SharePoint servers, from Google Drives, from a number of places. And when you use something like ShareGate, you can do that really rapidly and easily. And you can, of course, do that internally. So let's say you have a set of sites and teams. A lot of times those are also fragmented, not intentionally, it just kind of happens, especially when you do a bunch of these mergers and migrations. And so what if we could combine those together? And again, while Microsoft has some tooling here, this is where a tool like ShareGate or something like that for restructuring is really, really helpful. And in both instances, what we're saying is that IT has an opportunity to connect consolidation to knowledge optimization that the knowledge agent is going to provide. And so that's what you want to do. You want IT to really help with those harder things, get the data into Microsoft 365, or help consolidate sites and teams, while the business leads with the knowledge agent to optimize, pages, to optimize, what content's missing, to optimize how we can get answers to questions and build better views and better reports and better ways in which we can extract more value from our content. Lastly, I just want you to remember that you're not alone in this journey. And if you have your own questions about other agents, or you're curious about what you think the future of these things might be, we'd love to hear from you in the comments below. So feel free to share that, like and subscribe if this was helpful for you, because Microsoft 365, we've got this.